This article probably shouldn't be taken too seriously in some ways, in that it is musings upon should we have some return to liturgy in our services. And the reason why I say not to take it too seriously is that I don't think it's necessary to have a completely liturgical service. Having said that, when I do attend an Anglican church service, I actually appreciate the liturgy. I particularly enjoy the 1662 liturgy. And the reason why I find it a good thing from time to time to have a liturgy is that it reminds me of what I believe. And also, the reason I like the 1662 liturgy is it reminds me of what people used to believe in the past. And I think because of our loss of unity in the Christian churches, which I don't think is entirely a bad thing. I think the disparate nature of the Christian worship is actually quite a healthy thing. But the loss of unity means it's possible for people not to necessarily have a shared understanding of basic Christian truths. And it's possible that people could come into the church and, in all good faith, not realise what the church really believes. And unless at some point on a regular basis the church actually spends time, some form of liturgy, unpacking important concepts that they believe, based on the Bible obviously, then it's possible for people to join the church full of thinking of the world and in good faith, not realise that actually they don't agree with what the church believes. And this could happen in sexual ethics particularly. And I was quite impressed when I went to All Souls Langham Place some years ago that it was stated quite clearly from the front what that church believed in terms of sexual ethics, because they obviously have people coming and going who might not have those beliefs, and they wanted them to realise that this is a church that believes these things. And yes, you may have them tucked away like terms and conditions on a piece of paper that nobody ever reads, but unless you actually articulate what as a church you believe, there's a good chance that people will come in and they won't share those beliefs, because the world has a very powerful effect on what we think. And a liturgy reminds the congregation what it is they believe. And I think a modern liturgy would have to confront the issues where there's likely to be big disagreements between what the world thinks and what the church thinks, as well as your standard liturgical things such as the Lord's Prayer, the Nicene Creed, and things like the doxology. But I think there would also have to be a modern element. The church needs to be very clear what it believes, let's say, on six-day creation. It might need to be very clear what it believes about sexual ethics. And these are both concepts that are challenged by modern world thinking. And there may be other areas. But I wouldn't make them too many, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the church is not going to be prescriptive on things that don't actually crop up in the scriptures. In other words, it's not really the business of the church to micromanage what you think, other than when there's a very clear, consistent teaching in Scripture, supported by the traditions of the church over 2,000 years, then I think the church has every right to say, actually, these are non-negotiable. Vagaries of opinions that vary from time to time, I think one should be very careful. The church in the past has, for instance, gone down the route of, advocating abstinence from alcohol. That's a practical piece of advice, but it isn't really church doctrine, because it's not mandated anywhere in the Bible. One could argue that drugs is a different issue, because the taking of drugs would always have resulted in something equivalent to being drunk, and that is mandated in the Bible as being something you must not get involved with. So, as I say, this form of liturgy is designed to help the church keep to the traditions of 2,000 years, to the Bible, and for the congregation to know where the church stands. Well, thank you for this.